Yes, hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day. I hope your week is coming to a beautiful close, wrapping everything up so beautifully and so nicely, accomplishing all the things you've set your mind to this week so that the weekend is free and utterly yours. You can see we've got a change of scenery here behind us. We are out of the valley. We're up north in Forest Lakes, Arizona. Weather's amazing. And so we're doing an early show today because we've got to unpack what happened last night. Kamala and Tim Walz came out. They did their first joint couples group session therapy with Dana Bash, and we had just jumped into it yesterday on the show, and so we had a couple clips that they had released early, and I've watched a bunch of the other clips that are out there, but I have not watched the full thing through and through because it's kind of been hard to find, actually. CNN has cut it up into 3 different bits, and they've put it on their website on YouTube, and so we're going to watch it today. If you missed it last night or if you've only seen the clips, we'll watch it together. It's not long, so if you've already watched it, you don't want to watch it again, and you've got nowhere else to go, well, it's going to be over in about 26 minutes or 27 minutes. It'll be done. So we'll go through it quickly because Kamala and Tim Walz didn't spend a lot of time out there with Dana Bash. It was pretty short, and we'll see what it looked like. And if you did see it and you're worried about losing some additional IQ points from listening to it again, we'll see you back here in 30 minutes. I totally understand. So we're going to go through it, and we'll, of course, pause it and have some commentary over the top of it. We already heard some of the clips from yesterday, but there's a lot of reaction to this, including some almost disdain and disgust. Mark Halperin and other people are saying that what Tim Walz said in response to his stolen valor question was pretty bad. He was saying, well, I don't grammar no good. I don't talk so good. What are you talking about? You talk all the time. So don't just confuse that with some improper semantics of your conversation capabilities. So we'll go through that. We've also got Trump is reacting. He's posted a couple of videos. Kamala, this new line is that her values haven't changed. And that's kind of Trump's point. It's like, you are not someone who's racing to the middle. You are not somebody who cares about the border or who is for peace or who is for civil liberties or something like that. Like, don't pretend that you're some ethical prosecutor. You were terrible in California, right? Your values are the same. You're a San Francisco liberal. Nothing has changed about you at all. And so we'll go through that. We'll see what the reaction looks like. I've got some opinion pieces. I've got JD Vance is queued up. We've got some fact checks, even from CNN. We're fact checking Kamala. Byron Donalds is coming up, and it is just a beautiful day. Even Senator Kennedy is out. Newt Gingrich was talking about this. And then Trump is out speaking today. He's hitting the campaign trail hard today. JD Vance was out this morning. Donald Trump is going to be out later tonight. I think he's also out today having conversations, answering tons of questions from many different people all throughout the media. Kamala Harris, of course, not capable of doing that much more than we're about to see. So it's a beautiful day. It's an incredible Friday. We made it through another busy week, and it looks like the Kamala one-night stand honeymoon is coming to a close because her debate, her interview yesterday was pretty rough. And it almost feels like it's a debate, doesn't it? I keep making that mistake, and I've heard other people out there making that mistake too, kind of calling it a debate because it's almost adversarial. We had to like claw to get Kamala to come in and to actually sit down and talk to somebody. I think somebody did the final tally, and it was 30 something days had gone by when she had not actually done anything substantive, no real substantive conversations with anybody in the media. So it feels like you're dragging her into this room. Will you just sit here and talk to us? Okay, if you want to be the president, you have to at least talk to the voters, kind of part of the job description. And so it feels like it's a debate, even though it's not a debate. And yesterday on the show, we were talking specifically about that multiple choice question that Dana Bash gave over to Kamala Harris. All right, listen, we're going to make this real simple for you, Kamala. No short answers, definitely no essay responses are going to be required of you. Okay, that requires you got to know things. So just a couple multiple choice questions. And we know 5 multiple choice are really hard. So we'll just give you 4 choices and then actually really just boil that down to 2. Is it this or is it that? And Kamala still had a hard time with it. So we're going to watch this puppy. We're going to go through it. And I want to share with you this, that Kamala CNN has broken this down into 3 parts. And my understanding is they didn't even stream this on the socials. So unless you were a cable subscriber, you weren't live streaming this. I think other people were tapping into live stream feeds, but my understanding is they did not actually have this live streamed, which was curious. And so they posted it up in 3 separate images, 3 separate locations, so that we can have 3 separate videos to watch. And yeah, the last thing that CNN live streamed on their channel was the DNC, as you can see right here. So they're not actually, they didn't live stream the interview at all. And so we'll listen to this together. This is part 1 of Kamala's big day. And let's listen to see what she says, showing up in front of the media with her BFF, couples counselor, support governor, bring your vice presidential candidate to work day. Whatever's going on here is happening. Let's listen.
Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so much for sitting down with me and bringing the bus. The bus tour is well underway here in Georgia.
Hilarious.
You have less time to make your case to voters than any candidate in modern American history.
Because you cooed it.
The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day 1 in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade...
You've been in charge? What? People want change. You've been in the office for the last 4 years. And why is she looking down? We noticed this yesterday in the small clips. Why can't she make eye contact? Just look at people in the eye when you're talking to them.
We have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and in an environment that is about diminishing.
Okay, of the last decade, Trump has had 4. Your team has had 6. You guys have had 4. And before Trump was in there, Obama was in there. And you know who was under Obama? Joe Biden. So it's been mostly, the majority of the problems have been from you. And you know who else has been in government that entire time? You guys have. Even beyond that, go back another 2 decades. Biden has been in there for 40 years. Kamala's been in there for what, 25, 30? Useless as a prosecutor, then as the attorney general, then as a senator, now as a vice president. And she's going to blame Trump?
The character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation. And I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day 1?
Day 1, it's going to be about, 1, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy.
Nothing.
I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard.
What?
Which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods. What we're
Oh, man. So I'm going to try not to pause this every 15 seconds, but I just can't help but notice she looks like she's fighting it. Like there's something in the mouth, just what is that? She's like sucking on a lemon.
We're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes.
$6,000 car seat.
There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day 1.
What about you?
Well, I'm excited about this agenda, too. As I said, the idea of inspiring America to what can be. And I think many of these things
unburdened by what has been
proposing are things that we share in values. And the child tax credit is one we know that reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We did it in Minnesota to have a federal partner in this. Unbelievable, I think, in the impact that we can make.
You talked about, you call it
nothing,
the opportunity
non-answer, said nothing.
Economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability.
Thanks to you.
One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who
Want
do
to go
want to go
back.
back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID.
Yeah, and your party was
The
demanding
economy had
lockdowns and shutting
crashed.
everything down. And
In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump
Right.
of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality.
we have inflation at under 3%. So I think she's taking that 2.9% number that they've been able to rig out of their booties and make that the standard. No, it's cumulative. We've got every month 2.9, 3.1, 3.2 inflation month after month after month. Some months were dramatically higher than that. And they always forget the fact that, if my numbers are correct, and I think they are, more people died under Kamala Harris than under Donald Trump. And they had the jab. Remember, they delayed that jab intentionally until after the election. Then before the election, Kamala was out there screaming about how it would be irresponsible to take the Trump shot and how she's not going to do it. And then soon after they won the election, then she's suddenly like, poke me everywhere. And suddenly they were going to claim victory. And we still have more deaths under them than under Trump with the so-called therapeutic that was going to help cure everything. So she's just trying to blame him for stuff that they're responsible for. Ultimately, mismanagement. You guys mismanaged it. You said that there was this giant solution. You were going to come in, fix everything. You prolonged it. We've got students who've lost years, businesses who were completely closed because of their draconian methods and measures, mandates, firing everybody off of different jobs, right? The repercussions were compounded by them catastrophically.
That America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging, what we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years, what we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers.
Well, that changed. So a tax credit now rather than a tax giveaway. I thought it was $25,000 cash. So wait, so now you have to come out of pocket 25 grand that you don't have. You're just going to get a tax credit. That's very different than what her original policy is. This is why we need to have it on their website so we can see what it actually is. But they just keep making it up and changing it because they know it's a disaster policy. So now you get a tax credit. Got it.
So they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream.
Okay, so then what happens if something else breaks? Okay, they buy this house, they get a $25,000 tax credit. They can barely afford it. You shove them into a house. Then the water main breaks. Okay, that's a $5,000 repair. The AC breaks. That's a $5,000 repair. They can't handle it. What, they foreclose on the house, somebody comes in, takes the bank. Now you have a homeless family that's in a more destitute situation because now they're in over their head. They got a bunch of debt, having to try to upkeep this home. Right? There are certain reasons the market sets these different terms. And then you have bureaucrats like Kamala who want to come in and pervert everything because it just sounds good to voters. And it's basically a bribe, and then it's a bait and switch. We'll give you $25,000 to buy a house. Not really. Now it's a tax credit.
Their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Why haven't you done anything?
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for
Which was
seniors.
Trump's plan.
Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing
He did
Medicare
that.
to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited. I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying
Trump did
hundreds
that.
of dollars.
Then you guys
up to
undid that.
thousands
Then
of
you
dollars a
redid it. You're
month
like,
for
look
her
what we
insulin.
did.
She's not doing that
You
anymore.
maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
I want to get some clarity on where you stand on some key policy issues. Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking.
What do the environmentalists have to say about this one? Wow, that's pretty curious because she definitely said she wanted to ban fracking. She's on video saying it. And now she's reversing course on this. I wonder, anyone have any eyes on Greta Thunberg? What's happening? Is she okay with this?
As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, in a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes.
Yeah. So thank you. There's one follow-up from Dana. That's good. Thank you for asking a follow-up because that is on video. We've seen it.
So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward.
Well, why did you change from 2019 then to 2020? And what happened in that 1 year? Was it a political shift, or did you learn about fracking, or did you want to try to win Pennsylvania or something like that?
I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, excuse me.
It's complicated. I have to give her that. It's hard to remember her name. No one knows.
Cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice president. So I'm very clear about where I stand.
And was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now?
What I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking.
Okay.
Okay, so fracking is okay then. So they'll stick with fracking. But we still don't understand the policy shift. So I guess she loves the environment. She was against fracking because it was bad for the environment. That was her values, and she wanted to protect the environment. But I'm still not clear as to what. I basically think she's saying we can do like clean fracking, right? It's like clean coal kind of a thing. Is that the same thing? I don't know if that's going to be okay with the environmentalists or they'll be satisfied with that. But the interview carries on. So that was part one. It was like 8 minutes. Here's another 8 minutes.
Big one is immigration. As vice president, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
Northern part of Central America.
the northern
in
part
particular, yeah.
of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region.
Great.
The number of
Like what? The airplane companies that are busing them into the country? Bus companies that are busing them into the country? What? What companies? NGOs that are shuttling them in on the boats?
immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported.
It was garbage.
Which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm
Because you
sure-
gave them
and I'm
fat
sure in large
raises in
part
there to
because
bribe
they knew
them
they
to
were
get
working
on
around
board
the
with it.
clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concerns.
You also could have solved that by just not undoing Trump's policies on day one when you went in there. You don't get to break something, then create a solution, and then claim that the other people are responsible for the brokenness. You broke it. Your solution that we're not agreeing to, it's not even a fix. It enables the continued brokenness of the problem. So all you had to do was just not change what Trump did. You don't need to codify illegal immigration, which is what the Senator Langford bill did. And it was a pretty reprehensible thing, right? That was a Mitch McConnell organized mainstream GOP oppositional to Trump and to the actual, I believe, desire of the American people. They were trying to squeeze that one through. And they've done this many times before. We've seen this before. McCain did it all the time when he was in Arizona. So you don't need to do that. That's the whole point. But now they needed that bill, and the Republicans are so dumb. I wouldn't actually say dumb. I think they did this intentionally. I think McConnell and Langford, they knew this was going to fail, but they wanted to give the Democrats the gift of having this excuse to make the Republicans the scapegoat, because the immigration issue is perhaps the biggest issue in the whole country right now. Everybody's feeling it, not just in the border states anymore. It's all over the place. And the Republicans gave them this gift of allowing them to blame the Republicans, to blame Trump, because they're so bad at politics, or they just are working oppositional to the American people's interests.
Concern and a pain that they've
So
experienced.
you would push that legislation again. I just want to
Not
ask
only
about
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
just one other question about something that you said in 2019 when you first ran. There was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
what, you're not enforcing the laws now, Kamala. Your administration has failed to secure the border. And in fact, they're using Trump's rhetoric and Trump's language in their own advertisements. They're using the border wall imagery. We see them talking about how his policies were actually better for the situation. She's the border czar. She's going down there to stop the root cause of immigration. But lo and behold, we have record immigration. So her contribution to the solution was not helpful at all.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it
multiple
because you're
choice
running for president in a Democratic primary? And
Yeah.
should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when
and
we
how
should
many
meet.
chargers have you built? It's like, what, 8 of them, I think, with your $40 billion. So you've done a terrible job at it. And the Inflation Reduction Act has increased inflation dramatically. It's everywhere. So your intended goals don't actually manifest. We're recognizing that.
Certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the passage, illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed. So that is the reality of it. In 4 years of being vice president, I'll tell you, one of the aspects to your point is traveling the country extensively. I mean, I'm here in Georgia. I think somebody told me 17 times since I've been vice president in Georgia alone. I believe it is important
Hanging
to
with
build
Big Fanny.
consensus. And it is important to find a common place of understanding of where we can actually solve problems.
On that note, you had a lot of Republican speakers at the convention. Will you appoint a Republican to your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Anyone
Yes,
in mind?
I would. No one in particular in mind. I got it.
Liz Cheney,
68 days
Adam
to go with
Kinzinger.
this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse. But I would. I think it's really important. I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
All right. So
I want to ask you about your
another edit, right? We're asking about the edits, asking about what they clipped out. There's a lot of questions on how long did this interview ultimately go? And where were these jump cuts made?
Donald Trump.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last
she looked a little
month.
nervous there.
He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's talk about some foreign policy issues that would be on your plate if you become commander-in-chief. President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself.
Okay.
And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival.
Okay, this is
Women
interesting.
were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And
How many?
we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. We have to get a deal done. This war must end.
In the meantime-
And we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done. When you look at
Okay, this is interesting.
the significance of this to the families, to the people who are living in that region, a deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war, but will unlock so much of what must happen next. I remain committed since I've been on October 8th.
I think the point is that you're not going to get a deal done. I think the Palestinian side is saying you're not going to get a deal done if the U.S. is continuing to support Israel, right? So she says that is unequivocal, that we'll be supporting them no matter what, but we have to get a deal done. And I think the Palestinian side is saying, well, we need some leverage, like we need you guys to stop this and, so we can kind of calm things down. So my point is, it's a complicated issue, and obviously she doesn't know what she's talking about. But I think the question is the policy going to change from Joe Biden? Because there's a major constituency in the Democratic Party that is not happy with the Joe Biden policy. And we've played many clips of them here on this channel, them saying that they're staying home, right? There's one woman we had here playing a clip. She said something like, well, there's about 45,000 of us in Michigan. And so we might not want to show up for Joe if they're not going to use the U.S. leverage to force a deal with some sort of actual leverage, right? But that's not what Kamala's saying. Unequivocal, we'll support him no matter what. And I don't think that's going to play well in Minnesota or Michigan. We'll see.
To what we must do to work toward a two-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity.
All right, so that's part 2. This is part 3, and this is the final segment. So this is with Kamala and Tim Walz. And, this image is just so interesting because she looks very small compared to Tim Walz and compared to Dana. And it's not ideal. And we made a comment about this yesterday. All these mugs, it looks like they're in a cafe almost or something, right? They just set up shop in a cafe. They're like, all right, everybody, just leave your dishes here and get the hell out of here. We got Kamala coming in. Then they put her in this little chair. It's like, can someone get her a booster seat, please? If you're in a cafe, there's booster seats. We already know she's got crayons under her lap there for her notes, but what else can we do here to, boost her up a little bit so that she has a little bit more of an imposing figure? I mean, it really looks like she's tiny. I think it looks kind of strange, right? Like she's shrunken under the table. At least boost her up a little bit. But all right, part 3.
The country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described you.
And Walz's collar is also off too, right? These are optics. The optics matter. And you have to, get your shoulders puffed up a little bit and, be imposing, fill up the frame. They do a lot of this stuff. They do, they should be intentional about it.
For service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war. Did you misspeak, as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have.
So don't demean mine, okay? If I say whatever I want, my grammar's off. Sometimes I get confused here. You guys have caught me getting confused, like when I told you I was an associate justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Remember that? Remember when I told you that one time when I had when I beat the hell out of the government solicitor general during oral arguments? Remember that one case I was on, oral arguments in front of the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Roberts, after oral arguments, he came down, he gave me a high five. Remember that? Gave me a high five. He's like, nice job, Rob. I'm like, thank you, John. Chief Justice. You know, we were like bros. My grammar was off on that one. That didn't actually happen.
And I never will.
I just, one other question, because again, this is all new.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not, however many days ago, this was not on either of your bingo cards, especially yours. You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you is I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us. And so I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights. The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI. I think what they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban and the ability to be able to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
Yeah, we're asking about your credibility. It's not necessarily even about the policy. We're wondering if you're an honest man, because you have a pattern of lying, a big pattern of lying about some pretty important things. Command Sergeant Major for like 2 seconds. You were in that position. You didn't complete the academy. You retired at a different rank, but you've been saying it ever since then. And you did it so you could get elected for political gain, right? We have the weapons in war stuff. We have people from his own unit coming out saying that this guy's a real piece of work and he abandoned us when we needed him most. We have him lying about his tacos. We have him lying about his IVF, right? All of those things. One of those things you might just say, okay, so he made a screw up, whatever. But over and over and over again, we start asking ourselves, who is this guy? What does he stand for? Where is he from? What was he doing in China? We've got all these questions now, and nobody can tell whether he's an honest person or not. And so when he says, I think people know where I stand, no, that's the whole point. We don't, because you are constantly fibbing things here and there. Then you come out and you say, don't, mind your own damn business while you're setting up COVID snitch lines. It's a hypocrisy. So you got an inconsistency here. We have a question about your authenticity, and it appears you have none.
Vice President Harris, you
Another
were
cut.
a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have.
Wow, that's crazy, because you guys cooed him out of there like 10 days later.
Served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly.
That's your record, so
He
why are you
cares
running
so
away from
deeply
it?
about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people.
Smart
And I have
test, too.
spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has
Like in
the
Afghanistan.
intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that.
Whoa.
And so, one, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for president of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really
You guys
lies.
have been in
The
charge.
last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your
Yeah,
administration.
thank
I'm
you.
talking about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped, I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever
That's what's at stake
heard.
as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
That is like a high school platitude, right? That's what a high school coach would say to, a freshman class or something like that. It's really, really, really ridiculous. Trump is about who he beats down, not who he lifts up. You guys have been beating him endlessly for the last decade. Ever since 2015, ever since he announced he was running, you were creating fake things to take him out, to keep him off the ballot, to put him in prison, to raid his home, on and on and on, right? So talk about trying to tear people down. That's it. That's what their administration does. You make too much money. You got to go down. You're a straight white male who's a Christian. You've got too much privilege. Shut up. It's ridiculous. It's just never ending. But then she's going to turn around and say that they're the party who's lifting people up. They're trying to equalize and lowest common denominator everybody, right? That's what equity is. That's her entire platform.
Because we haven't had a chance to talk, I'm just curious, staying on President Biden, when he called you and said he was pulling out of the race, what was that like? And did he offer to endorse you right away, or did you ask for it?
It was a Sunday, so here I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it. There's no such thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces, and we had just had pancakes and, Auntie, can I have more bacon? Yes, I'll make you more bacon. And then we were sitting down to do a puzzle.
Wow.
And the phone rang, and it was Joe Biden. And
What a story.
and he told me what he had decided to do. And I asked him, "Are you sure?" And he said yes. And that's how I learned about it.
And what about the endorsement? Did you ask for it?
He was very clear that he was going to support me.
So when he called to tell you, he said, I'm pulling out of the race and I'm going to support you.
Well, my first thought was not about me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, right.
My first thought was about him, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
I think history is going to show a
What?
number of things about Joe Biden's presidency. I think history is going to show that in so many ways it was transformative, be it on what we
It
have
was. You guys have
accomplished
wrecked the country,
around
wrecked the world.
Finally investing in America's infrastructure, investing in new economies,
What?
in new industries.
What's
what
new?
we have done to bring our allies back together.
What
and have
allies?
confidence in who we are as America and grow that alliance.
What?
What
Who's
we have done
joined?
to stand true to our principles.
What principles? Free
including
speech?
one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
What are you talking about? Ukraine?
And I think history is going to show not only has Joe Biden led an administration that has achieved those extraordinary
rambling off.
successes, but the character of the man is one that he
Nothing.
has been
Said
in
nothing.
his life and career, including as a president, quite selfless and puts the American people first.
I just have to
Cut.
ask you both about two standout moments, aside, of course, from the addresses that you both gave, but standout moments that were perhaps unexpected during the convention. You mentioned one of them,
What?
Governor. A moment that you shared, that the world shared with your son, Gus. You were speaking, the camera caught him, so incredibly proud of you, so emotional.
Do you love your
saying,
son, Tim?
That's my dad.
Tell us how much you love him.
Yeah, I don't know as a father I could have ever imagined that.
Wow.
Grateful
Great
for so many
interview.
reasons
Great
to be on
question,
this ticket,
Dana.
But that moment, to understand what was really important, to have my son feel a sense of pride in me, that I was trying to do the right thing. And it was, you try and protect your kids.
Great question.
It brings notoriety and things, but it was just such a visceral, emotional moment that I'm grateful I got to experience it, and I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of Hope. I'm proud of Gwen. She's a wonderful mother, and these are great kids. And I think the one thing is, talking about the era we're in, is our politics can be better. It can be different. We can show some of these things, and we can have families involved in this. And I hope that I hope people felt that out there, and I hope they hug their kids a little tighter, because you just never know, and life can be kind of hard.
And last question.
Is he dying
Madam
or something?
Vice President, the photograph that
What?
has gone viral. You were speaking, one of your grandnieces that you were just talking
Yes.
about was watching you accept the nomination.
Oh my
You didn't
gosh, it's like a
explicitly
love
talk about
fest.
gender or race in your speech, but it obviously means a lot to a lot of people, and that
Hey, this is weird.
viral.
I wonder if Dana would ever ask JD Vance about his relationship with his kids, or Donald Trump about Eric Trump being there, or whatever. No, never. Okay. This is just total garbage.
picture really says it. What does it mean to you?
You know, I am running because I believe that I am the best person to do this job at this
Yeah,
moment.
gosh.
For all Americans, regardless of race and gender. But I did see that photograph, and I was deeply touched by it. And you're right, it's the back of her head, her two little braids, and then I'm in the front of the photograph.
Yeah, we see it's on the screen,
And
yeah.
it's very humbling. It's very humbling in many ways.
Did she talk to you about it afterwards?
Oh, she had a lot to talk about. She had a lot. She listened to everything, and she listens to everything.
Give you your hot takes?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Madam Vice President, Governor Walz, thank you so
Wow.
much for
Great
your time.
interview.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Thank you.
Okay, so that's just amazing. That is from CNN. We had 3 segments, 8 minutes, and then a 10-minute segment. Some of that was being delivered by Tim Walz. We know that if you do the calculation on this thing, that Team Trump did it for us. They said Kamala spoke for just over 16 minutes and didn't even address the crime crisis that's happening all over the country that they're covering up. She spent a mere 3 minutes and 25 seconds talking about the economy, 2 minutes, 36 seconds talking about immigration. Okay. So 16 minutes out of whatever that was about, I think about 26 minutes total would have been the total interview right around that time. So 16 minutes. She's had 30 plus days to prepare for this. She came out, and if we had to grade her on that, I mean, it wasn't like an F. It wasn't, she didn't gaff herself into oblivion. She talked in a lot of platitudes and said mostly nothing, but it's average, I would say. She did average. I mean, give it a C, probably. It wasn't an A. We didn't learn anything new from her about her charismatic persona that we'd all been missing, or some oratory capabilities that she suddenly discovered. No, it's Kamala. We always kind of thought this was going to be a rough go for her. And when they put her out with her BFF, Dana Bash, who there's weird connections between her husband and all sorts of weird stuff, and she gives her literal multiple choice questions, that's still what we get from Kamala. Now, there was a lot of reaction to this. In fact, even the New York Times and some of their opinion people were saying this was rough. One opinion piece from the Times said a vague, vacuous TV interview didn't help Kamala Harris, didn't work out so well for her. Said she didn't hurt herself in her interview this week with CNN's Dana Bash, but she didn't help herself either. On the positive side, she came across as warm, relatable. To recall Obama's famous exchange that Hillary Clinton was more than likable enough. Harris refused to be baited into identity politics. I don't think so. I think she definitely talked about that. She was running for president regardless of race and gender. But that's bringing it up, right? That is bringing it up. It's like, I represent all people of all races and all gender, right? It's like, yes, I'm not a white person. I'm a black female, according to her. And she had a nice line of attack against Trump, observing the distinction between leaders who measure their strength according to whom you beat down, which was a dumb line. I thought it was a high school line. But the one line that I did like from her that I thought is totally dishonest, but is a good line, is her former prosecutor line. And we know that the left doesn't care about this at all, right? They were defund the police in 2020. Then they elected Joe Biden, who created the modern police crime state that we live in. So the contradiction there is just unbearable. But they'll do it again this time, right? So if they'll elect the prosecutor just because now Trump apparently is the criminal or something. But that line was dumb. Now, less positive, says this guy. She was vague to the point of vacuous, right? That's what we were saying. And that line in particular, the beat down and lift you up stuff, that's like at the end of a high school football movie. She struggled to give straight answers to her shifting positions on fracking and borders other than to say my values have not changed. Well, okay, fine. But you evaded the question of why it took you guys more than 3 years to get control of the border. And you now have done that through an executive order. It also didn't answer the question of why she reversed her former policy positions. She relied on a few talking points that may not serve her well in the next 2 months. She mentioned price gouging, but Americans probably won't believe the grocery chains with razor-thin profit margins are actually the real culprits. Her $100 billion plan to give first-time home buyers $25,000 in down payment support would mainly be an incentive to even higher home prices. Even Trump is smart enough to explain how this is a gimmick. Yeah, that's a nice little jab there. Now, a bigger weakness was the presence of Governor Tim Walz there. It made her look small, like physically and emotionally. Though he delivered a fine speech at the DNC, he was transparently evasive in answering about his military service and his DUI and his family's fertility. Yeah, we didn't even mention the DUI. If there are other lies or untruths, campaign better get ahead of them. Now, as for Bash, she is intelligent and insistent. She's not afraid to ask follow-up questions, but there was way too much fluff in this interview to lay to rest doubts about Harris's readiness for higher office. Tougher questions next time, please. Yeah, it was pretty patty cakey. And we saw that at the very end there in spades. Now, this is another gentleman over from the New York Times. His name's John McWhorter. And he wrote this. He's talking about this word joy. He says, joy. It's a very interesting euphemism for a word that no one wants to say out loud, joy. And we've been making fun of their hysterical joy, screaming like they're at a rock concert or something. America. Now, I hate to rain on the parade, but there is something fake about this business of joy, says this guy. And it's John McWhorter, who I think is a black male. I don't want to misidentify, but I don't know, which might be relevant to this story since it's, I think, going to be talking about race. Says, I hate to rain on the parade, but there is some fake about this business of joy, and not just joy, but joy, capitalized joy. As Oprah told us last week, surrounding the elevation of Kamala. Problem is that no one's talking about what the joy is really based on. Certainly part of the joy comes from a candidate who's at least mentally alert and might win. But imagine if after Biden stepped down, the party had nominated a white male. Oh gosh, that would just be the worst. If the person accepting the nomination last week had been Newsom or Beto or Tim Walz, there would have been some joy, sure, but not like the theatrics that we saw here of them just backflipping all over themselves. Not too many people in the audience would be crying with joy as they did for Harris. And let's take it further. What if it was a white woman? There would be some joy of the Hillary vintage, some, but not like in Chicago, tearful, beaming elation from Amy Klobuchar, Gretchen Whitmer, Kristen Gillibrand, if they're on the stage. I doubt it. That's because a good deal of the joy that people keep talking about is the result of one thing, that Harris is black, which is like half the equation. Yes, she got a big laugh and a casual affect and she seems to be having a good time, but this isn't anything close to the whole story. You don't believe me? Run the thought experiment again, but this time picture Stacey Abrams or Michelle Obama. A lot easier to picture those joyful tears, isn't it? And I don't only mean joy from black people. I mean the instant and the torrential elation across the Democratic board. Memes, thumbs up for celebrities. Well, it's a lot of the white liberal women too, right? Who just love the fact that they're helping a black female, right? I think it's this liberal guilt thing that they have. White women for Kamala, we saw, and white dudes for Harris. It's like, we're white and we're helping a black person. We're good people now. You're just like, wow, that's pretty condescending, but okay. Before she had even laid out a program of any kind, beyond a few sound bites, she has still barely even spoken to the public without a teleprompter. I'm hopeful about how she'll show us, but let's face it, nothing about Harris just now justifies her being treated as some once-in-a-generation phenom or some sort of a savior. It's not about substance, it's about optics. Harris is being received on the basis of a category she fits into, rather than who she is as an individual. The thing sweeping so many people up is the idea that her being black and a black woman would in some resonant way shape her presidency, which is the same point we've been making. We were wondering, I don't know. I mean, so Joe Biden is in charge right now. Kamala Harris is number 2. They have the same policies almost exactly. So if we swap positions, right, like basically the same policy, she's said the same thing. Not going to change much. She has almost no policies. But she wants to change. It's going to be different, but we haven't seen any real distinction. So if the only, right, if we're trying to identify what variables in this change, in this swap from Joe to Kamala are going to cause an improvement in the American system in the world, the only thing I can identify is the fact that she's black and female, because the policies are the same. It's just a different person, different genitals, different skin color. You just swap it, everything gets better. Apparently, I don't know. So I'm trying to understand how that works. It's like, it's in a video game. If you put a different helmet on, you get like +5 vision or something, right? Okay, so Kamala comes in, we get -5 inflation. I don't know. How does it work? But that it would be somehow significant that she, quote, looks like America, that Harris's, quote, blackness would be a meaningful part of not going back. We've been here before, okay? This guy says. In the run-up to the election, I was enchanted with the idea that Barack Obama's blackness offered some kind of serious promise. I thought that Obama's presence would help normalize black success and power in America's eyes. I thought it would help temper what I regard as a tendency to overplay the power of racism in modern America and discount the massive progress we made at the time. But that didn't work out. The Obamas were barely unpacked at the White House when wide word came from legions of the writerly class that the election of a black man didn't mean that America was post-racial. Remember that? In fact, the killings, I think everything got even more racially polarized. A popular idea was Obama was a black president, but it's hard to see how that ended up making anything better. Well, it's because everybody got in there and started making everything about race. And then you have to be anti-racial or something. There is no reason to suppose that Harris's color will be any more significant than Obama's was. We're going to continue to discuss race and racism in the way that we do now. Smart folks will warn us that her blackness must not distract us from doing so. He says, I wish her well, but it diminishes her to cherish her primarily because of her skin color. It's a great point. It does. It totally does. It's like, oh, is she just useful because she's a black female? Like, that's it. That's what you guys are so excited about. It's really kind of bigoted from the left. Well, she's a black female and it's historic. Do you know anything about her? Do you know her policies? Do you know what she stands for? Do you know what she believes in? Do you know what her record is, how she got here? Or is it just black female and that's like all you care about? And she's not Donald Trump. And I think for many, it's the latter. So there was some fact checking that was happening out there after the interview was over. And here's what CNN themselves said about this on fracking.
The fact check, bottom line, Abby, is that she did not actually make clear at a 2020 debate that she had changed her previous support for a fracking ban. So let me take you through this kind of saga. So here's what she said at a CNN climate town hall in 2019 on the subject of a fracking ban.
will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
That was quite clear. So she ended her 2020 presidential run in December 2019. The only debate she participated in 2020 was the general election debate with then Vice President Mike Pence. And I went over the transcript of that debate tonight. Nowhere in there does she make clear that she had abandoned her previous support for a fracking ban. Rather, she repeated that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would himself not ban fracking. So listen to what she actually said in that 2020 debate.
Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
So it makes perfect sense that at the time she was speaking on behalf of Biden, the president, not the vice president, sets administration
It's
policy.
not what she said.
But maybe other people feel differently. I certainly did not hear anywhere in there Kamala Harris saying that she personally had abandoned her previously expressed 2019 view. Rather, again, she was speaking for Joe Biden.
Yep. And that is Kamala and her campaign people trying to come up with some sort of justification. We need a talking point. We need something that you can latch onto when this comes up to say that, no, you were always consistent here and you're not just a gigantic flip-flopper. But even CNN called her out on that. Well done. Now, here is what someone else said. This is from Alex Thompson, says that he was on CNN doing some analysis. Here is his take. Let's listen.
I can tell you that there was, among Biden aides, Harris aides, Democrats across town, like the main attitude was, because essentially some of her worst moments as vice president have been in these interviews, that she can get a little bit on her back foot, that she can get nervous and have these sort of viral word salad clips. Now, I don't think everyone was saying this was like an A+, but they basically got through it. And I can tell you that
got through it. Yeah, about a C. I think a C is about right. They made their way through it. It was a gimme interview. I mean, it was pathetic from Dana Bash, the kind of questions that she was lobbing out there. She had a couple follow-ups, to be fair. She asked to dial in on it a little bit on some of the questions, but it was a pretty easy interview. And Kamala spoke for 16 minutes. So what can you do in that time to really screw yourself up? It's kind of hard to do that if you're a professional, if you've been doing this for a long time, as she has. So she didn't fall down a flight of stairs, but she didn't come out here and blow everybody's socks off either. Here's what Frank Luntz says. He says, I realize a lot of people think that Kamala Harris has done well so far in this interview. I disagree. Says a good debater will find it easy to challenge her. And as we even noticed, she felt a little uncomfortable or awkward. She had a lot of those introductory phrases like, first of all, and well, let me be clear, right? It's giving her brain time to think, and she's got some work to do before the election starts, no doubt about it. Here was another exchange from Johnny Maga. There was looks like a poll, a conversation with these individuals who had listened to this. And here's what this woman on MSNBC had to say.
You feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander-in-chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
You feel some
that
kinship?
Sounds right. We got serious stuff going on. And there's that infamous image of her coming out after Afghanistan when we lost 13 service members, where she's laughing, cackling, maybe even drunk, telling the media to shut up for a second. And the DNC was a lot of that. And I thought that was not a real interesting look for them, because a lot of Americans are hurting. And we hear it all the time. And you see it, actually. You see it a lot, too. And it's a sad state of affairs for many people. Now, to have the Democrats bouncing around on the DNC stage with their pom-poms and their Twinkies, shoving their faces, let them eat cake. We're joyous while Kamala has been responsible for a lot of the smoldering, and Tim Walz literally smoldering businesses around their localities. It doesn't match. Okay. It's kind of offensive. It's in your face. Now, here is what Morning Joe had to say about this on MSNBC. This was Vitali. She's a correspondent over from them. Let's see what the other side's saying about this.
How do you see what you heard yesterday? And what some of the criticism has been from Republicans, which is, well, of course, she's coming around to these positions now as a presidential candidate because she knows the people she needs to win sit where she says she sits now. What do you make of her evolution? How should voters look at it?
I think, first of all, on policy, it makes sense that she spent so much of that interview focused on the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration, whether it was capping the costs of insulin, whether it was taking down overall prescription costs for seniors. Those are cornerstones of what they viewed as their first 2 years in office and their legacy going forward. It makes sense that that was a lot of the focus. I thought she was smart to explain her policy positions as not a change in values, not a change in her deep inner mooring in the way that she views things should change, but instead something almost situational in terms of taking in more information. I will also say, as I put on my gender in politics hat for a brief moment, it was a smart way to go about it, because attacks on flip-flopping and not being honest about your positions are in some ways more lethal to female candidates, because it is seen as in some ways being more duplicitous, more like they're lying. We saw it be very effective against someone like Hillary Clinton, in addition to Trump calling her crooked.
Well, she is a liar and a cheater. So it's only applicable when it's applicable, right? If you don't flip-flop on stuff, well, it's kind of hard to call you a flip-flopper.
That's Harris, I think, even though she doesn't talk about the
This
gender
is
role
sexism
of this, it's
coming
her
out.
employing some of the studies and the data and the knowledge around how do you tackle the fact that her policy positions have in some ways changed and evolved, and how do you explain them in a way that's not going to feed into the most negative characterization that voters and people who are running against her could possibly give it. That definitely struck me as one. But look, as someone who's covered her over the course of really the breadth that she's been on the national stage, this is a different person. And I'm sure that Sam and the rest of the folks on the panel who have covered her agree. She has a different kind of confidence. She is leaning into bipartisanship in a very Biden-esque way, in a way that really makes you wonder if that might not be the key thing that might have rubbed off on her over her time as the number 2 in the Biden-Harris
It's a general
administration.
election. Okay, we talk about this every election. During the primaries, you race to the margins, you race to the ends of the spectrum. During the general election, everybody races to the middle. She conveniently got to avoid that, right? And it was a pretty smart move by the Democrats to do that, to not have to have anybody fight in a primary. Like, what if Joe Biden had said, I'm not going to run a long time ago? There was a wide open primary. They would have had to define themselves on these issues, and they would have gone far left so that they could capture the victory in the primary. Then they'd have to race to the center and distance themselves from everything they said previously, right? Trump is running into that problem right now in this abortion stuff. Bunch of the pro-lifers out there melting down all over X. We're not going to vote for him now. And so we're just going to give it all to the ultra abortioners, I guess, is I think their solution. But that's a separate story for another day. This is, I think, Kamala just trying to win an election. I agree that her values have not changed. She is a communist liberal individual who's not even that well philosophically astute. I think she's just kind of a useful entity for other real power brokers who are exploiting her, just like they've done with many others just like her, like Joe.
I think that's the thing that she's going to try to use and leverage continuously, in addition to the fact that she's been the administration's strongest messenger on another key issue that is in the minds of voters, which is reproductive access and abortion care. And that's something that she's been leading on. That's kind of a softball for her at this point. The rest of the harder policy stuff, of course, there should be more questions on. I'm interested in hearing more on. But in terms of this, I think the explanation tracks with where I think they're happy with it.
I'll just say very quickly to Allie's point, I went back and watched the sort of infamous Harris interview with Lester Holt after this one. And what was remarkable was just how much more confident she was, how much more steady she was last night.
Okay. She had her comfort governor there with her, and she was with her BFF, Dana Bash. She didn't have that when she was with Lester Holt previously. So you can see MSNBC's thrilled about it. Kamala did great. Her 16 minutes were just really encouraging, and they feel enthused with who she is and how she's going to lead America through the next epoch. But here is Byron Donalds. He says, this is terrible. All right. When she talked about her niece, she was smiling and relaxed. But when she talked about her policies, she's gulping, she's pursing her lips, getting all nervous, looking around. She's trying to remember what they told her to say. Here's Byron.
Forget all of things that she said. People, go back and watch her body language. When she talked about her niece, She's looking at Dana Bash. She's smiling. She looks relaxed. But when you ask her about her policies and the flip-flopping, she's looking down. She's looking small. She doesn't look like she has confidence in what she's saying. Believe it. She's trying to remember what they coached her to say. That is not the leadership our country needs in this pressing hour. We need Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, Byron Donalds in the house. He's right about that. Kamala would be a disaster. And Jason Miller, also on the Trump team, was out talking about this. And you can see Kamala here also. And you just watch her body language as we're going through this. And you can see, looking down to the left, kind of an evasive thing. You got an interviewer right there. Just, look up, talk to them, answer the question, just talk to them, just explain who you are. You should have this stuff dialed in pretty well. You've been in this your whole life, essentially. So here's Jason Miller.
President Trump was right. It did not look presidential. There's a certain threshold that you have to meet when you're looking presidential. Can you lead this country? Other candidates in the past have had it. I don't see that with Kamala Harris. Even Joe Biden, in the event when they put him in, say, like a still photo environment, he would look presidential. May have disagreed with the way that he proceeded in his record. But Kamala looked as though she'd been called in by her teacher and the principal to say, Kamala, you have not been to class 1 day and a half years. It's time to talk about your record. And on that record, she had no good answers. What we saw, though, there's a big, big difference between scripted teleprompter Kamala that we saw at the convention. That was only a week ago, by the way. And then actually being in an environment where you don't have notes, you have to actually answer on the fly with what you're being pressed on.
Right.
And the answers were so vague. I mean, my values haven't changed get 3 mentions, and say crime, for example, gets 0 mentions. President Trump was...
Yeah, she can talk in the platitudes, but even when she's got a script, sometimes it doesn't work out all that well for her. This is what happened yesterday when she was talking about the Constitution, I think. Here's Kamala.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
That on the teleprompter? I don't know what happened there, but don't think that's right. Anyways, here is now what they're doing. Apparently, they're also busing people to her rallies. So I think the facade is starting to crumble off.
At all. But catch this. It's been since 1992 since a presidential candidate came to Savannah, which was Bill Clinton in the hostess city. Now, at the Enmarket Arena itself, lines stretched around the venue, as I was just telling you, and people started getting here as early this morning for the vice president. But for those a little further away from the hostess city, shuttles to the rally contained a lot of excitement.
I was in Atlanta and I heard that the vice president was going to be in Savannah, so I decided to just kind of beeline over here and check it out.
It is crazy at all.
It's interesting, right? So they're busing them. And I don't know who's paying for these buses or what's going on, but they're shipping people from Atlanta out into some other areas, right? Probably trying to show that Kamala has some nice enthusiasm outside of the major metro areas. We'll see about that. Now, we've also got more. Donald Trump responds to Kamala's interview. He said, I just saw Comrade Kamala Harris and her answer to a very weakly phrased question, a question that was put in more as a matter of defense than curiosity, but her answer rambled incoherently and declared that her, quote, values haven't changed. On that, Trump says, I agree. Her values haven't changed. The border is going to remain open, not closed. There will be free healthcare for illegal aliens, sanctuary cities, no cash bail. There will be gun confiscation, zero fracking, a ban on gasoline-powered cars. Private healthcare will be abolished. A 70 to 80% tax rate will be put in place, and she will defund the police. America will become a wasteland. That's from President Trump. And of course, he's right about all that. He also shared this one in response to Comrade Kamala saying, my values haven't changed.
My values have not changed.
Reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
The Boston Marathon bomber, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, I'm in favor of banning fracking. I am prepared to pass a Green New Deal.
I support a mandatory buyback program.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented cross borders criminals.
The idea that more police equals more safety, that's just wrong.
Policing, as we know, goes all the way back to slave patrols and that idea of...
You are absolutely right.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
We need to take a look at these budgets.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
70 to 80% tax rate.
I think that's fantastic.
Chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing.
Nice. Values haven't changed a bit. We know who she is. She knows who she is. She's just trying to hide it from everybody and put on a camouflage hat with a fake governor who is making up huge portions of his biography. Here is JD Vance responding to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre, right? So if you have the same values, why have you changed your mind on literally every topic that you previously held an opinion on? But I think it's important for us not to buy this. If you look at the way that Kamala Harris is governed, she's actually governed as a far left person. She's just trying to pretend that she's not far left now because, of course, she wants to win the American people's votes over the next couple of months. But if she does, she's going to do the same thing that she's been doing for the last few years. She's going to try to make it harder to get American energy from American territory. She's going to make it harder for us to drive down the cost of everything from food to housing. She's going to make it harder for us to enforce our border laws, and she's going to make more chaos and more instability around the world. So it's really absurd for Kamala Harris to sit there and say, well, I don't actually believe in any of the thing that I told you I believed 3 years ago. She has governed as a person who believes those things, and unfortunately, the American people are far off because of it.
So nice, JD. Exactly right. If you have values, those values are usually pretty hard set, and those values will lead to actions. And so if you have major differences, like fracking, for example, is a pretty big one. What did you learn on that one? That's a very clear one, too. It's very easy. You come out, you say fracking is destroying the planet. Oh, really? Now it's not destroying the planet. Was it clean fracking? Is that a thing? What happened? Where did it come from? She can't answer it. Vivek was out saying Kamala's interview last night was a reminder that we're not running against a candidate, okay? We're running against a system. They require a candidate they can control, which means having original ideas is a disqualification. That's exactly why we get Biden, then Kamala, and so on. It's just an empty suit. It's a placeholder, one after another, all of them mostly vacuous, but they'll just do whatever they're told. Newt Gingrich said, after watching the CNN interview of Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz, it is clear that Walz is the first emotional support candidate in history. Just as some people need an emotional support pet, it is clear that Harris is sufficiently insecure. She needs an emotional support vice presidential candidate. President Trump should be compassionate and allow her to bring Walz to the debate so he can stand near her and offer her emotional support. I like it. Yeah. And he can just kick the air out there, too, while he's up there on the debate stage. So here's Senator Kennedy. He says, look, everybody knows I served with Kamala in the Senate. She's not all that bright, right? She's basically like AOC.
Any senator who's telling you the truth will tell you that Vice President Harris, then Senator Harris, was easily the most left-wing member of the United States Senate, even to the left of Senator Sanders and Senator Warren. I have described her as AOC without the bartending experience. I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean that as just a factual statement. The vice president is a San Francisco Democrat.
Exactly right. Like AOC is a New York liberal, but at least she had a bartending job once. So this came out from Trump while all this is happening, right? While Kamala is doing 16-minute interviews, and while Biden is on the beach sleeping, Trump is wondering who's in charge of this country.
But do we have a president?
No.
He just got back from California. He was supposed to go to the White House. He never got there. He went to Delaware, and he's laying on a beach sleeping all day long. No, seriously, who the hell wants to sleep? And who wants to sleep in public? He's sleeping. Do you think President Xi of China is at a beach sleeping? Do you think Kim Jong-un is sleeping from North Korea with his nuclear weapons all over the place?
No,
They
I don't
don't
think
sleep
so.
so much. Now, we have a guy sleeping, and she's incompetent, but we don't even.
She is incompetent. And she had one interview. It was mostly pathetic, very little in terms of substance. Dana Bash asking standard questions. She talks in platitudes. Walz squirmed around his stolen valor and his stolen IVF. And the question is, will there be more interviews from them? Will they actually come back out later and do this again? Or is this enough? Did they do what they need to do so that every time somebody says, why won't she sit down for an interview? She says, we did. Hello. We just did it with Dana. And that'll be enough? I don't know. Now she can switch into debate mode. So probably not going to see her before the debate, which is coming up on September 10th. We're live streaming that. So thank you for subscribing, my friends, wherever you are, for liking this video and for making sure that you are subscribed so that we don't ever miss you, because I hate when that happens. But now, my friends, since we got some updates on what is up with Kamala, now let's hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about this. I saw some very nice and generous donos come in. You guys rock. Look at this. We got this one from Ollie's in the house. What's up, Ollie? Ollie is saying 5 membos got gifted membos, and we're on the road now, and so I have a hard time sharing the appropriate screen over here. But K Bean is clipping for us. K Bean, thank you for that. She shared this. Ollie is bringing in membos. Cindy DeTore is coming in. William Lins, Bruce Little, what's up? Eat Geek, and Harlan Remy coming in courtesy of Ollie. Ollie, you rock. Thank you for that. Hey, what's up? Voice of the People says, Davies baby is here. He asked me to thank you for all the support. It means a lot to his family and ours that you guys are such a great crowd. Well, that's awesome. So welcome aboard to a new baby on the Off-Label podcast show. They have babies too over there. It's not only our channel that has babies. They had a real baby though. So what's up? Shout out to Davey. Hopefully the baby has arrived healthy. Hopefully mama is feeling good after a birth. I don't know what happens after that, but hopefully you feel good and everything's amazing. Congratulations to Davey and Voice. Are you going to be Uncle Voice of the People now? I think so. What's up? Ron Hastings says they cut my Social Security by over 30%. $600 a month just gone. Wow. 8 months as a member, Ron. I'm sorry to hear that. Is that normal, or is that something that is happening across the board, or is that something that's unique to you? Thank you for that, Ron. Thanks for being a membo. We got this one from Elf. What's up? Elf is bringing in 10 membos. Elf, oh my goodness, look at these. We got 10 membos. Samantha Richardson coming in. Will's here. Bill Leslie, Barb W. We got Proxy Loxy. Deborah Erdman in the house, courtesy of Elf. All coming in. And thank you, K-Bean, for clipping those. And Rick Donner, man, we got a bunch of new membos coming in. Rick Donner, what's up? Rick is here, bringing in Scott McClish, Pickle Jars for Hillary, Carol Jenkins. We saw Lisa's coming in. We got Prospering Woman, Lisa Gray, Lady J, Keith Caffey, Kimbo's coming in. Amazing. Thank you, Rick, for bringing in the new membos. Hey, Rick also asked this question. Then why was he forced out? That's a great question. So I think you're asking that to Kamala. Kamala says that she's so happy about Joe Biden and so proud of him and he's amazing. Why'd you throw him out? Why'd you stab him in the back? We know why. Ollie gifted 5 more membos. Ollie, you rock. Thanks for bringing them in. And Ollie's new friends coming in as membos. You know who you are. Thank you, Ollie. What's up, Lisa? Been a membo for 6 months. Lisa says, America will never be a communist country. You're right about that. Not the America that we live in. That's for sure. Not going to happen. What's up, Jim R? Hey, it says they project themselves and are their own victims. Yeah, I think you're right. They think that they're a victim of some sort of existential threat. Well, they actually are. I mean, they're not, the party is trying to commandeer America. And so the idea is to put the Democratic Party out of business. Yeah. What's up, Sarah? Says Sarah, hey, a new YouTube member. Sarah became a new YouTube member. What's up? Good to see you in the house. Or maybe it is Sarah. I don't know. What's up, Sarah? We got Clowns in Hollow Weird. Became a new YouTube member. What's up, clowns in Hollow Weird in the house? Thanks for becoming a membo. We got Elf, 10 membos gifted courtesy of Elf. Elf, you rock. Look who's coming in. Ollie got a membo from Elf. Zenith Perigi got a membo. True Neutral got one. Quoathanon, Peter Jester, Timothy Wilson, Bella Enzo, Lisa, Dennis Heaton, Ladybug, and Heather Fullwire gifted membos courtesy of Elf. And Ollie is also gifted membos. Ollie brought in Aaron Stevens. Thank you, Ollie, and welcome, Aaron Stevens. Hey Voice says, Harris might not have had a bartending job, but she did have a different tending job. Yeah, that's for sure. She did a lot. She certainly did a lot. Hey, and we had some locals comments as well. What's going on to our locals friends? We're going to go over to locals and hang out for a bit before we wrap it up on the day. Look at this one. Okay, so this one came in over on locals. And we'd love it if you became a locals member because you can share images. You can meet new friends over there. Rick Donner says, he was a friggin' high school history teacher and he doesn't know grammar good? Tim Walz can't speak no good words too much good. That's why he doesn't know where he was with weapons of war, whether he was in Italy. Maybe he doesn't know his geography. Maybe he's bad with geography. Italy, Afghanistan. He's like, well, they're both over, an ocean. So yeah, hard to know. Hey, Tobo says Chewy says Kamala is an empty suit. Chewy would know, clearly. Smart pup right there, no doubt. Knox, what's up? Knox Bierman says, TGIF all. The kindest take I found on this dish rag of an interview was a solid first effort. My Democratic friends keep saying, she will learn. She's going to learn. That's hysterical. And they say, sorry, I didn't know that the president of the United States was an on-the-job position, on-job training position. She's going to get better. She's just warming up. Hey, Chewy, another one. Chewy again. Chewy, man, that's even a closer up. That's zoomed in on the face now. Chewy said it again. Did you hear that, Kamala? Knox says 90% of diabetics in the U.S. are type 2 and non-insulin dependent. Children are being diagnosed with type 1 due to crap food, obesity, etc. So they're giving kids type 1, but children do not receive Medicare. Knox says diabetics account for approximately 11% of the population, ergo most of us don't care about insulin prices. Yeah, I agree actually with this. I think it's kind of a wild thing. It's like, I heard some proposal, right? Somebody wants to give everybody Ozempic or something. Like, I agree we have a weight problem in America. I absolutely agree with it. And I think it's the food, but I don't know that more, like, just promising people more drugs is the solution. And I know there's real diabetes. And I'm not trying to argue that people don't need insulin. Like, obviously that's a condition, it's a thing, but I think there's probably a food related problem that is being overlooked. And the solution is, well, we'll just buy more drugs for them, right? So you eat your drug infested food, you get sick, then you take some other drug so that you don't eat the drug infested food. It's like, okay, this feels like it's bad. Hey, Knox says diabetics. What's up, Knox? Rick Donner says she didn't run in a Democratic primary this cycle. She stole it. Yeah, it's why she's never had to answer any questions. And it's why she doesn't have to be pinned down on those far left positions, because now she can just run as a general campaign candidate. It's very convenient. It's pretty smart. Woodchip says Ahead contracted she has said by saying my values haven't changed. She basically contradicted everything she said by saying my values haven't changed. I'm the same person. Indoctrination says, I'm tired of hearing, let me be very clear, than not making a comprehensive statement at all. Yeah, those are just filler words, right? That they just make up. And it is a thing that politicians do regularly. We got some good comments on locals. Rick Donner says, I have not heard a single family member say they have met with her. From her, you mean? From her family? Or of your family? Knox says, she's like one of those prosecutors that reads their entire close off their notes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Rick Donner says, isn't this a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act? Pentagon provides more support for Secret Service, from Rick Donner. And I saw that headline. This old guy says, Dems destroyed Biden's legacy. I don't approve much that Biden did for half a century in politics, but I think he deserved to be honored for that service. And he will always be remembered as a puppet president who was mentally unable to fulfill his responsibilities in his career because he was senile. Yeah, they should have let Joe Biden stay and ride the sinking ship, right? The captain goes down with the ship. That's just the honorable thing to do. And then they threw him out because they knew the sink was going to sink. Hey, what's up? Patty B Photography says, if they asked JD Vance about his family being there, it would be weird or creepy somehow. You know, why do you bring your daughter to these things? Why is your nephew here? Do you drag her to all your events? Shouldn't she be in school? That's what they'd say. Shouldn't your niece be in school right now? Cliff Norman says, Kamala is not self-aware, may not be able to reflect on what she believes and why. Our values and behaviors are connected. Exactly. She has taken 180 on several positions and now says my values have not changed. This is an insult to the audience. I'm a vegetarian. I now eat meat. Something changed in the values. This is exactly right. Yeah, it's exactly right. And that's why when people are trying to identify, why do I behave a certain way? You can often trace it back to, value, some sort of core programming that's leading to that behavior. So maybe we should change that value, right? If you constantly wake up with low self-esteem and you behave like you have low self-esteem, like your actions are being manifested in that. You can fake like you have self-esteem, or you can develop the actual self-esteem. Go back to the core value, work on the core, work on those inner beliefs. Then it will manifest outwardly. So what Kamala is doing is saying that these observed behaviors have changed, but her values have not changed. But the core behaviors directly correlate to your core values. So we need an explanation on how that works. Woodchip says, they stopped oil development on most public lands, but put up atrocious windmills. Tracking is definitely more environmentally feasible, from Woodchip. Cliff says, Rob, here's the same focus group. Said, I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the Black or Hispanic experience. You don't think she can help brown people? Nah, going to Howard don't make you black. Here's what this person says. Let's listen to this clip. Another short one. I just don't think on this tab.
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the air finger quote Black or Hispanic experience in so much as it would be identified by anybody that lives in those communities.
Yeah. You're saying you don't think that she can help Black or brown people?
No, I mean, going to Howard don't make you black.
Yeah. I think that's right. I don't know. I didn't go to Howard, but I don't know. But I do think that sounds right. Hey, what's up? Crash says, Rob dropped a comment. Here's the tip. Thank you, Crash. We'll read it. This old guy says, rotary drilling, perforation, and fracking are all normal processes in oil and gas production. We've been using hydraulic fracking in the completion of the majority of oil and gas wells since the year of my birth. I'm 75 years old. I guess we could always return to the way we used to do it. 1865 nitroglycerin explosions at the bottom of a borehole. I think there was a movie about that, right? This old guy. MAGA Hat Stays is sharing this one from Simone Ateba, saying Joe is celebrating the inflation rate. Joe Biden is celebrating the inflation rate. And we had some other comments on locals. We're looking for the Crash comment. We'll see what Crash said. He says, Rob, since I've been a young man, I have said that sometimes we need to let the fever run its course, let the fever break. She personifies the fever. I'm convinced that we are just forestalling the inevitable if we put a Band-Aid on our collective wound today. Patton said, we're going to have to fight the Russians someday. We might as well do it while we have the army here to fight them with. Now, I'm not espousing conflict. Our founding fathers never espoused conflict, but they didn't run from it either. Our fundamental difference with the left and global elites needs a reasoning. We need to let the resolving begin. Well, it very well could be in our future, Crash. It could very well happen. If they steal this election, I think there's going to be some serious disagreements over that. In fact, I think that this election is really going to not resolve much of anything. I don't think either side is going to be happy with the outcome, no matter what happens. Trump will win. They'll say they stole it. Kamala wins. We're going to say they stole it because they've been stealing it for the last 4 years. So it might be coming soon, Crash. You might be seeing it right around the corner any minute now. So hang tight. We'll see. But my beautiful friends, all right, thank you so much for sending those donos in. You guys rock. Very grateful for those. We had a couple others come in. Hey, what's up, Elf? And Ollie gifted that one. JC, what's up, JC says, censorship is evil and your mods are amazing. Hey, thanks for saying that, man. They are amazing. They're awesome. We love our mods. Elf is here, says, congrats on the 400K. Thank you, Elf. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was an awesome thing. And thanks to everybody for subscribing and for sharing the show, for making it possible. Couldn't do it without you. And we're super excited for the next level. We're excited to be here and really honored to do it, to be here with you. What's up, Mahiri King? Says, Rob, it's happening all over America. Even my grandmother got her Social Security reduced. That's crazy. Money that she's worked hard for and paid into, the government is not paying it back to her. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the trend. Our government is broke. What's up, Gordon Beaton? Sadly, they will cheat again in November, and America will have a recourse yet again, and the DOJ and the courts have all been unchanged. And that is to Crash's point. They may very well do that. They're already cheating right now. They've been doing it for a long time. Why is that going to change when Jenna Griswold is in control of the levers? What's up, Bonnie? Bonnie sharing this one in the house. Bonnie Cross, thank you for the dono, Bonnie. We love you. We got Mr. Cranky Pants. He says, thank God my values haven't changed. Trump 2024. Yeah, if you have pretty firm values, you're not changing on issues like fracking, probably. Unless she learned something, unless she's like, I was wrong on fracking. Fracking is actually safe. But she can't say that because then all of the environmentalists and all the lefties will have an absolute epic meltdown. So she just can't say it. Obviously. What's up? Hey, G-Gum. Yeah, thank you, G-Gum. Yeah, it's a gorgeous room we're in right now. G-Gum says, Rob, whatever you are, the room you're in is beautiful. Yeah, this place is awesome. And it's great to be here. You should see outside. We'll do some walk and talks. We'll be outside. We're going to be outside a lot. It's so beautiful to be here. We love it. What's up, G-Gum? Rick Donner, good to see you. Says, I just got a letter from Social Security this year. I'm 60, saying I am half a point short of qualifying for benefits. I'm a disabled vet who paid in for almost 30 years, but I can't get a job and work for 8 more years to earn that half point. Our government is just the worst. Sorry to hear about that, Rick. I know there are Social Security lawyers out there. I don't have a good referral for one, but I do know there are lawyers who will help you with some of that stuff. Hey, what's up? MAGA Hat says the largest pro-life organization has endorsed Trump, knowing he's the first president to participate in the March for Life. They realize who we are as a nation. These pro-life protesters make a ton of money and do not want to give up the grift. It's like 4 people. Well, they're making a bunch of noise, man, on X. There's a bunch of the pro-lifers out there. I'm not voting for Trump this year. Oh, okay, so you're going to vote for Kamala Harris with their drive-through abortion vans? They're like, well, it's principle. I'm like, okay. So thanks. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. No, I'm not happy about that. I don't think it's a smart play. Rick Donner says the families of the hostages. And Dan Sundin says the program by Tucker Carlson, who interviewed the 2 authors of the Good Energy book, is important to review. The program by Tucker. Yeah, I've got a couple things. I got to watch the Tucker Kennedy. And I think there was another one. I think that one, Tucker Energy. Supposed to be some really good ones out there. So we're excited about that. And today, I think Trump has some rallies cooking. And we are going to go over to locals right now. So locals, hang tight. Come over and join us for the Membos after party. We'd love to see you come join us. New members on YouTube, there's a Telegram link that you can join us on. And I don't know if it's working or not. It may not be working. But the point is, we are, for members, going to come back tomorrow. It's going to be Saturday. We're going to do a Membos stream. And so YouTube members, we're going to see you back here tomorrow as well. So don't forget that. Welcome aboard, new Membos. And welcome aboard. And thank you to everybody who brought in our newest of Membos. Very grateful to have everybody in. Yeah. In the house. And so we're grateful to have everybody here. So we're going to leave it there on the day, my friends. It's a beautiful Friday. I hope your Friday is unfolding nicely. Hopefully your week was amazing. We want to thank our mods and our meme smiths. We got Donut. We got Carrie B. We got K Bean in the house. We got John McGarvey all clipping and helping out with us today, even though we're on the road. And I didn't tell them that, but they were still clipping hard for us. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. and K Bean clipping on the tubes. McGarvey rocking and rolling. All right, so we're going over to locals, my friends. I hope you have an absolutely outstanding rest of your Friday. Membos, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Otherwise, my friends, we are going to come back here on Monday is the plan. It's pretty beautiful out here, so maybe we'll post a walk and talk or we'll do something else over the weekend. But we're going to leave it there on the day for today. And we're going to get outside and go enjoy some fresh air. But my friends, thank you so much for joining us. I do hope to see you back here on Monday so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful Friday and an incredible weekend, my friends. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And now, bye-bye. See you tomorrow. See you on Monday.